We're back on a Monday. We have so much to get to in today's show. I mean, the matchups, again, last weekend were incredible. Had a great recap. Can still talk about that. But this weekend, we got some bangers as well, all across the country, from sea to shining sea, league to shining conference, however you want to put it. Guys, before we get into it, though, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Some tough news in the quarterback world coming out today. Graham Mertz going to miss the rest of the season at Florida with an injury. It's the DJ Lagway show now officially, but you hated had to be on these terms. A guy who I still think gave him the best chance to win when it comes down to it. And then Cam Rising, Kyle Whittingham says he's going to miss the remainder of the season. But don't worry, guys. He's eligible for an 8th season.
How do we already know that?
Of college football. That's what he said. They're going to talk about it. Because they asked him about it. Actually, I think it may have been Brett McMurphy. Don't quote me on this, though. Asked him about if something were to happen, would he come back for an 8th year? And Cam Rising before the season said that's not the plan. 7 is enough. But everything that I've read and seen, unless a lot of people were wrong, including people that are typically right, I think he has an 8th year somehow of eligibility. So regardless, I hate it for him that he's hurt, but at least you get a free doctorate.
I don't think that's how that works. At some point, enough is enough with college football.
What do you mean, David? What do you mean enough?
Cam Rising, Graham Mertz, and DJ Uiagalelei are all going to be playing football now?
I saw it all over Twitter today.
So wait a minute. All 3 of them are eligible for another?
I'm not 100% on that. I'm not going to sit here and say that's 100% true, but I saw that all over Twitter today. Would you be surprised?
No, I wouldn't be surprised, because anytime the NCAA tries to make an enforcement that restricts what a player can do, they just get sued. So, I mean... No.
David, what I laugh at is what we used to say is, hey, you have 5 years to play 4. Now, I'm not a mathematician or a, geometrist or whatever, but I don't know how you get to 8 regardless with the 5 to play 4. 8, that's double. That's double the 4 years that you're technically allowed to play. It's absolutely
Get out! Insane. Leave!
Well, Cam Rising looked like he was 100 years old in that game this past weekend. He just looked like he had played 9 years of college football. Texas gets set to host Georgia after beating OU in the Red River Shootout. Tennessee and Alabama both survive in Week 7. We're going to preview that mega matchup. And we give you our top 12 college football playoff bracket as it stands today. It's a snapshot in time. I'm Jake Crain, and welcome to the hottest sports show when it comes to any sports or shows. It's Crain and Company on a Monday. All season, we've been waiting for one team to separate themselves from the rest of college football. That one team that we can point to and say, this is the leader, and everyone has to catch them, and it's going to be tough. Now, multiple teams have had that opportunity so far in 2024, yet nobody has truly taken advantage of it. But for Texas, that's what this weekend is as they host Georgia. Quinn is back healthy. The Longhorns are pretty much at full go. Their 2 biggest wins of the year so far have come against teams that lack any semblance of balance offensively. That's obvious to everyone. Michigan and Oklahoma can't hurt you through the air. Now, that isn't to take away from the Longhorns' dominance in both of those games, because they truly did. But this weekend against the Dogs, they are going to play a team that can hurt you both ways and does have a semblance of balance. Now, Georgia doesn't seem as dominant as they have been in the past because, well, they aren't, but if Texas passes this test with flying colors, they will firmly grasp onto the top spot in the sport, with Oregon nipping at their heels, I will say that. The cry will go from, is Texas back, to Texas is here to stay. And in a college football world full of parity and uncertainty, this weekend could catapult Texas into the driver's seat. Now let's break this game down from a granular and fundamental standpoint. Former Michigan quarterback David Cohn to my left, former Western State Colorado wide receiver Blaine Crain to my right. David, and again, there's a long way to go, and I don't want to take away from what Oregon did beating Ohio State, because that was a really nice win. But if Texas goes out and dominates this weekend, and really, they don't have to beat Georgia by 40 points, but we look at that game and say Texas dominated it throughout, this is the most complete team in college football. Because that's what I think the argument is. Not that they have the best offense in the country, or that they have the best defense in the country, or they have the best special teams in the country. It's that they could have the best combination of the three, and that's what we've been waiting to see.
Yeah, well, the way college football is going this season, forget winning with a blowout. Just go win by 1 point, and you'll be able to make your case. I mean, we circled this game as soon as the schedule came out a long time ago, and the stakes are just as high now as they ever were, because I agree with you. Texas with a win has a chance to, I mean, they're already the number one team in the country. They have a chance with a win to pull away at least from the rest of the conference, right? Georgia, on the other hand, has a chance to climb back in this thing and sort of alleviate a little bit of what happened with that loss against Alabama. And the way college football is going right now, Georgia would win this game, right? So everything's like back to square one. I do think Georgia has one thing going for it in this game, and that's that we haven't seen Texas play a team yet that's really good on both sides of the ball. You can't say that about Michigan. Solid defense. They didn't pose any threat on offense. Same with Oklahoma this past weekend. The game was going exactly how Oklahoma needed it to in that first quarter, and they're up 3-0. Unfortunately, you have to do that times 4 against a team like Texas. Now, I do think Texas, just right now from what I see, is better than what Georgia is, and I was surprised, I have to say, to watch Carson Beck throw the football 48 times against Mississippi State this weekend. That seems like a lot when you're playing a team like that. But at the same time, say what you will about Georgia and where they are at least a balanced football team. I think they'll be the most balanced football team that Texas has played up to this point. To me, what this game's going to come down to is which coach makes the adjustments in the second half. We saw Kirby Smart be able to do that in the Alabama game. There's only so much you can game plan for against Steve Sarkisian going in. You have to get a look on the field, see what he's doing. Same thing on the reverse side of that. Which coach is able to make the adjustments in the second half to be able to give their quarterback the football later?
And not even that, David. I would be shocked if Georgia came out as down as they were against Alabama.
I don't think we'll see that again for the rest of the season.
I don't think we will.
That was
either.
As bad as it gets.
It is. That's what was so amazing about them being able to come back. And when you talk about making halftime adjustments, you know, I love matchups where you have two great offensive minds as head coaches, but the best type of matchup you can get, if you're really a nerd about this stuff the way that we are, is a brilliant offensive mind like Steve Sarkisian going against a brilliant defensive mind like Kirby Smart. And I know they have coordinators underneath them. I want to make sure and give those guys credit. But these guys have seen each other many times. Remember when Sark was at Bama, like they know each other. This is a very, very close connection. So I'm very interested to see the way that Georgia may come out and give some multiple fronts that gave Quinn Ewers some problems against Oklahoma. But Blaine, going to the Georgia side, when you look at now, and I want to project a little bit down the road and think as a Georgia fan would, this game is massive. We know that, right? You don't have to have anybody convince you of that. But now that Ole Miss has 2 losses and they get to host Georgia, Ole Miss has to win out to make the playoff. There's no question about that. Jackson Dart talked about it. If you're a Georgia fan, you want to win this game, obviously, because if you don't, that third loss that could happen at Ole Miss in a game that could truly be a must-win, I mean, it just raised the stakes even higher.
Yeah, I mean, this is Georgia. This is huge for you to win this football game, especially after Ole Miss losing. The only other ranked team you have in your schedule will be Tennessee, and that game will be at home. But I think we have to be honest about this Georgia football team. This is a finesse football team. I've said it for multiple weeks. We're used to a Georgia team that is run to pass. With all the NFL offensive linemen they have walking into this year or last year, they were a run-to-pass football team. Now you're seeing a finesse Georgia team. And there's nothing about when you brought this up, I don't trust Georgia on defense. I don't know why you would. You have NFL players running around. I get that. You gave up 31 against Mississippi State, which is a bad football team. The one legitimate offense that you played other than Clemson early in week 0 is Alabama, and you gave up 41. I know we saw in the second half, didn't do a lot. But right now, you look at Texas, I think this will come down to is who defense shows up. Like, if you want to separate yourself in college football right now, I think defense is what will separate you. Look at the best right now. Oregon, I mean, okay on defense, not great. Ohio State, okay on defense, not great. Alabama, not great on defense. And Georgia, what I've seen so far, it's not great on defense. I've seen a Texas team, Quinn Ewers, struggle when he came back early. He's been out for multiple weeks, and he finally figured it out. One big thing I will look at is injury report. Is Isaiah Bond healthy for this game? Went out last week against Oklahoma early in the second quarter, I believe.
I think he's going to play.
If he plays and he's healthy, I mean, I like Texas in this game. But right now, if you're Georgia or if you're looking at this game from the periphery on the outside, what do you feel great about?
Well, and I get what you're saying, and I take the Mississippi State game with a little bit of a grain of salt because I went back and watched it, and Georgia should have been better. I'm not trying to make excuses for them. but they were very, very vanilla in what they did. And it seemed like as disciplined of a team on the field as Kirby Smart usually has, it does feel like they were looking ahead a little bit. So I don't want to put too much stock in that Georgia-Mississippi State game. What I will say is it's not just about saying, all right, well, Georgia's not this or Texas isn't that or they are. It's the capability in one game. I think sometimes analysts and people in the sports media world get so caught up in a result of one game that they don't look through the entirety or see the good parts too. I saw Georgia make adjustments and shut down Alabama's offense, which is still really good. And I tell you this all the time. In the second half, I think Georgia's going to put their best foot forward in this game. But I think Texas is going to put their best foot forward in this game. And when we're looking at personnel, at least for me, I think Texas is more physical than Georgia. I think Texas has better players overall on this roster from a special teams, offensive, and defensive standpoint than what Georgia has on their roster. I think Texas could bully Georgia. I think Georgia could have a great game plan going into this game defensively, to mix the fronts, to be exotic, to not be afraid to run stun against Texas. But Texas just has better players overall on the line of scrimmage in this game, David. I think that's what, to me, the reason I opened with it, is what could separate Texas from everybody else, is that they are the most complete team from roster to execution on the field in all three phases.
You said one thing in there that I do agree with. Both teams will well, I agree with multiple things, but the thing I'm honing in on is that both teams will put their best foot forward. I truly think that's what we'll see. Not that Georgia didn't play as hard as they possibly could against Kentucky. I'm not saying that. I just think that we're going to see the best version of both these teams. And if Texas ends up winning by 14, then the proof's just going to be in the pudding.
Does it worry you at all that during the Alabama-Georgia game, which that game was at Alabama, that Georgia came out and looked like that?
A ton of things.
So
you made a point in that live stream at Innisfree that Carson Beck just played his way out of the first round, and I agreed with you. And then everybody was like, well, he threw for 400 yards in the second half. I don't care. There are things that hit from his performance in that first half that still stick in my mind, that bother me, and that's just when we get to the draft later in the year. Forget the rest of the college football season we have to play out. So, yeah, I'm worried about all sorts of stuff. I mean, and I'm not taking Georgia as we sit here right now. I just do think that what Jake's point is, we will see the best version of both these teams. I think we'll see the type of Georgia team that can do what Oklahoma did in that first quarter, make things really ugly and scrappy against Texas, but do it for a little longer. Can they do it for four quarters?
And they can score.
I don't know. And hey, say what you will about Mike Bobo calling plays, and I'm from Georgia, so I've heard it my entire life that his play calling is too vanilla and he's not creative. They're throwing bombs every play this season.
And Blaine, to your point, though, and why I see what you're saying, because that is, quote unquote, the biggest game that Georgia's played all year. The Clemson game to open was a big one. And I thought, that they showed us some things in that Clemson game, especially look at the way Clemson's playing now. But is there not a part of you that thinks Georgia, number one, their personnel's too good to probably make that mistake again? And since they've already made that bad mistake of starting out so poorly, they can fix it now. It'd be different to me if Georgia didn't have the guys to fix it. I can sit here and give Charlotte the best game plan possible, or I can give FIU the best game plan possible. But we go play Ohio State, they're just going to whip our ass because gravity is gravity and physics is physics. I don't think Georgia's going to make that same mistake twice. Not that they're going to win the first half or that they're going to come out and look like world beaters against Texas. I just don't think they're going to be caught on their heels as much. And they went on the road and played Bama. So any of the new guys that played on the road, this isn't going to be shocking to them. I actually think it lessens the likelihood that Georgia comes out and plays that bad because they already did it against Alabama.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying. But one thing that would scare me if I'm a Georgia fan is, a lot of this game, what it's going to come down to is going to be a line of scrimmage football game. You can dress it up as many times.
Oh, you're damn right on that.
Can you get pressure on Quinn Ewers? Can you run the football? Because the winner of this game will be the yardage and the percentage will be better in the running game. I know Texas can line up with that offensive line and run it against anybody in the nation. I can't say the same thing about Georgia.
No, well, see,
Carson Beck threw it 50 times against Mississippi State. That's not going to win you this game.
Yeah. Well, and you said it, in this matchup at least, Georgia is, quote unquote, the more finesse team than what Texas is. We can get in the schematic details of, what would you do here? How much 11 personnel would you get in? How much 12 personnel would you get in? How many times are you going to go empty? But I can tell you what I think is going to happen. I think Sarkisian is going to try and run it at Georgia until they prove they can stop it. Because a lot of what Sark built his offense offense on is what all the smart play callers do. It's what Lincoln Riley does. It's what Heupel does, is you build it off play action, right? You build it off play action and being able to stay ahead of the schedule because you are running the ball and getting into 2nd and 4s, and you're into 3rd and 2s, and you're able to not pitch backwards, but really pitch forwards. Run it to pass it, and then you know what? Halfway through the drive, if it's 1st down and 10 and you've been lining up in 12 personnel and you're just running counter and power and ISO and gap scheme down their throat, that's when you line up in 12 personnel. That's when you put Isaiah Bond on the edge. That's when you go play action, and that's when you take your shot. So Sark is going to run it at Georgia until they prove they can stop it, and then he'll give you the lollipop reverse and this, that, and the other. On the other side, I don't think Georgia can line up and run the ball at Texas. I think they are truly going to have to pitch backwards. I think Mike Bobo knows that. I think Carson Beck knows that. I think most of the smart Georgia fans know that. Now, if they come out and run the ball, that's great. It's going to make it easier. But do not be surprised at all if you see Texas come out in heavier personnel and look like what Georgia used to look like, and that Georgia looks like what Texas used to look like,
crazy.
Throwing the ball all around. It's like Freaky Friday.
It's a midlife crisis for a lot of teams we didn't expect. Literally for Georgia, when would we talk about Georgia being finesse football?
I know.
Right? Alabama, Tennessee. When would we talk about a Tennessee team that's struggling extremely bad on offense, that's really good on defense? Flip it to the other side. An Alabama team who is bad on defense and extremely good on offense. It's just it's the upside down. We're in Stranger Things.
Okay, and so that's why I said earlier that the most college football in 2024 thing that could happen this weekend is for not only for Georgia to come out and beat Texas, but for them to be the more physical team.
Yeah.
And then we're back at square one. Like, that's what I keep thinking. Like, anytime you think you have a sure thing, you don't have one. And I'm looking at this like, man, maybe Georgia completely resets the conversation by winning. And there's a couple other things they have going for them, particularly on the defensive side of the football. One, they won't have to game plan for Texas the same way they did against Jalen Milroe with his ability to escape the pocket. They're not going to have to do that. Two, Quinn Ewers did not look good at the beginning of that game.
No, he did not.
Oklahoma. I know he came back strong and they won big and all that kind of stuff. He looked very, very bad in the first quarter of that game. I know he's coming back from injury, but at least for Georgia on defense, that's something to build off of and say, hey, he'll throw us the football. Let's make him throw us the football. And the third thing is, and I hate to even put it in the universe, but like, he's gotten injured in big games before. Yep. And if Quinn Ewers goes down and Arch Manning comes in, I think the conversation it's not completely different because your point of lining up in 12 personnel and running at him is still, no matter who's the quarterback, you can still do that. But the conversation does become a little different.
No, it does. And really the thing on the flip side of it, that if you're a Texas fan, that there's two, or that would kind of worry me a little bit, is Georgia, and this goes back to the being more balanced on offense. We're not saying that Georgia's incredibly balanced, but as a team, they're more balanced than a lot of teams that Texas is
more than Michigan and Oklahoma.
There's more pathways for Georgia to win this game than there was for Michigan or Oklahoma.
True.
Playing against Texas. And if I'm a Texas fan, I want to put context around this. Does the Tennessee track kind of scare me a little bit? What do I mean by that? Well, we watched Tennessee with this ballin'-ass defense, right? Go out there and play really well. The offense was exploiting teams they were better than. The Oklahoma game, they just kind of played it a little bit safer offensively, didn't put Nico in those situations. I know that Quinn Ewers and Nico are two different players that are in two different circumstances. But if I'm a Texas fan, am I a little bit worried that just like when Texas, played Michigan, you look at Tennessee and Oklahoma, that'd be kind of a low-scoring game. You really don't know yet, is what I'm saying. Like, could we be sitting here gassing up Texas like, hey, we think they're the most complete team, they're the most balanced team or whatever, and then they come out and offensively they're not what we thought they were, and we get another 24-21 or 20-17 type game where Georgia's able to hang around and Carson Beck can find a way to the end. Not that Tennessee and Texas are unbelievably similar. They're not at the quarterback position, but when you look at team archetypes up to this point, right, when Tennessee got thrown into the fire, we found out, hey, they may not be what we really thought.
I think the difference in that is Quinn Ewers.
It's okay.
It's got to be Quinn Ewers, right? Because I think you can look at Tennessee, and we were right about a lot of things. That defense is really good. They have talent at receiver, and they're really damn good at running the football. Nico's been a bust so far. You can sit here and say what you want. Nico has been a bust so far, and you're still winning games. I mean, that's how good your roster is at Tennessee, especially that defense. You're still winning football games. But Quinn Ewers, we know about Quinn Ewers.
I say that. Yeah, we say that.
You've seen Quinn Ewers ball out in big games.
I have, but I've also seen him get injured in big games early, and I've seen him lose big games. That's why I thought Texas's win with Quinn Ewers at Alabama last year was so impressive, because we talked about the ability for Jalen Milroe to run, and Quinn Ewers can't. It didn't hurt him because he extended the plays in the pocket. But again, the Georgia defensive line, this is what the game's going to come down to. Can you stop the run? Because if you can't, Sark is going to gut you like a fish next to a dock. All right. And the second thing is, can you get to Quinn Ewers? Why did Texas beat Alabama last year? Because Quinn Ewers' jersey was as clean when he walked out of Bryant-Denny as when he walked into.
And Oklahoma sacked him on the first play of this past.
I know.
But last year, I think they had 5 sacks against him. Washington had multiple sacks in the college football playoff game. The one game that throws a monkey wrench in all this that we're talking about is Georgia's opener against Clemson. Because if they didn't have that, if they just opened against Georgia State and beat them bad, obviously it'd be a lot tougher to like prop Georgia up in this game.
Or if Clemson looked awful,
or that, of course. But Clemson looks great now moving forward. Didn't against Georgia. Like, that's what, to me, I just keep thinking, man, maybe we're in for a close game.
And I hope we are, because, I mean, we had some absolute gangbuster games last weekend. Just to put it quickly, because we got to move on. If this college football season was directed by a movie director, it would be M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
100%, because it's twist after twist after twist. But we're going to get to our best early bets of the week. Going to get to Tennessee, Bama. Going to get to the phone lines, 1-855-236-3228. We want to hear from you. We're going to open those up at 2:45 p.m. Central. But first, if you're going to bet on the game, Texas, Georgia, Bama, Tennessee, Charlotte, Navy, it doesn't matter. And it can be more than just sports. You can bet on politics and all type of stuff. I don't know why you would, but you can if you want. You need to head over to betonline.ag today. Maybe you got a couple other sports books. That's fine. You need to add another one to your repertoire, and we got a great deal for you. Or maybe you haven't gambled on sports before, and you want to dip your toe in the water, or maybe just jump in. Come on.
I'm here.
Come over here right now. We got you. All right, and so does betonline.ag. And when you head over there and you use promo code BOOSTER, that's BOOSTER, you get a 50% sign-up bonus of up to $250. Plus, BetOnline is tossing a free 100 spins in their casino for all who sign up ahead of this year's presidential election. So head to betonline.ag, use promo code BOOSTER, get that 50% sign-up bonus of up to $250, and check out how easy the website is to navigate, and the payout methods are versatile and trustworthy. The two things that I hope they put on my tombstone, but they probably won't. BetOnline, where the options are endless, and so is the fun. Speaking of endless options, let's get to that chat. I know it's wrong.
All right, chat, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you donate, it's on topic. It will get read. We're going to start the day off with the B2B Visor. He says, I don't know if Georgia has a complete game in them, but this would be the week to show it. If you got it, you can't come out and look like you did against Alabama.
I am going to believe that Kirby Smart knows how to prepare his team, especially coming off a performance against Alabama where you had an awful first half. That's teams that win championships evolve as the season goes on. Even the teams that are undefeated, like Michigan last year. I think they kept evolving as the season went on. And sometimes you're going to have all three phases hitting. Rarely, but sometimes they do, and sometimes you have to have it, and I think Georgia does. Sometimes you got 2 out of 3 of the phases that are balling. Sometimes it's 1 out of 3. But the teams that win championships are the teams that put themselves in the position to win championships are the teams that are evolving as the year goes on and can win in multiple ways. We always say if you're not evolving, you're dissolving, and that goes for the regular season too.
Let's go to Callum, England. What's up, Callum? He says, as an A&M fan, I'm a Georgia fan this week. Beat the hell out of Texas. This kind of brought up a point. Do you think the entire SEC is rooting against for Georgia? Or do you think the entire SEC wants Texas to win this?
See, that's interesting hearing that from a Texas A&M fan, because I would think the first year you get to play them as SEC foes that you would want them unbeaten, and that's the last game of the season in College Station.
You're thinking about it rationally as not a Texas A&M fan.
Well,
you're thinking about it rationally. You're right. Logically, if the best thing for A&M's season this year is for Texas to be undefeated by the time A&M plays them and A&M beats them. Because if you're 10-2, that's going to catapult you in the playoff anyway. If you're A&M, if you're not,
but you might play them a second time in the SEC championship.
You might. But again, you're looking at it logically and rationally, as opposed to somebody that just hates Texas. And you know what? I get it. Callum, is that what you said?
Callum, yep.
Callum, I 100% get it. But I think this goes back to what type of prisoner are you, right? Are you the type prisoner?
I'm innocent.
That you've been in? Well, I know you are, David, but they all are. Apparently.
Lawyer screwed me over.
Are you the type prisoner that may hate one of the guys that you're in prison with, but helps him beat up the new big guy when he comes in his first day in the prison? Are you the type guy that protects the new big guy, and you just want to watch that old big dog get his ass beat?
Are SEC fans ready to watch Texas run through their conference first year.
That's why I think that point is why I think most SEC fans want to see Texas to lose. Want Texas to lose. I think they do. I think they want Texas to be put in their place. And you know what? If you're Texas, you should welcome that. And another thing we talk about, Texas, how much game pressure Texas really faced this year? How much game pressure they really face? When does it become nut-cutting time for Texas so far this year? But you have experience. That's why I'm not as worried about that.
All right, let's go to Big Jar 60. He says, when Texas defense holds Georgia to 1 touchdown, all we're going to hear is how Georgia isn't the Georgia we thought they were.
Well, I think two things can be true at once. I think Georgia cannot be what they were a couple years ago because they're not. But also, in the landscape of college football this year, they're one of the best teams in college football. Like, for Texas, what else do you need to see, though? Like, do you need to see, is Texas going to have to play, beat Michigan, beat Oklahoma, beat Georgia, then beat Ohio State, then beat Oregon, then beat Penn State, then beat BYU? Like, at what point are you like, all right, this is the landscape of college football. Texas is probably the best team or one of the best teams. What else they got to do for you?
Man, if Texas holds Georgia to 1 touchdown, at that point, I got to start putting in a future on national championship for Texas. But what happens if Georgia wins 41-38?
Yeah.
Then, like I said, the conversation gets reset then.
That's kind of what deep down the anarchists, I think, want is for Georgia to win this game. And then just everybody. You know who doesn't want Georgia to win this game, I don't think, is the playoff committee. I think the playoff committee is just hoping to God we don't walk into Georgia's 9-3.
I mean, it couldn't be anything worse than
Texas
last year.
Texas is 9-3.
You kept the undefeated team out because their quarterback got
it could. It could get a lot worse.
Maybe you're right.
It could get a lot worse.
So in terms of like a high-scoring game or a low-scoring game for Texas and Georgia, like if I said the final score of the game is 41-38, who would you say won?
Texas,
right? So what if I said the final score of the game is 24-21?
Texas.
So because they can just win any sort of way. Yeah.
Yeah. If you told me the game was 3-2 who won, I would probably pick Texas.
Yeah.
That's what makes them the scariest to me. All right, let's move on, David. Let's get into Tennessee and Bama.
Yeah, Tennessee, Alabama. Obviously, this one's going to be in Knoxville. This is another game we've been circling all off season. The cigars are going to be out for one of these teams afterwards. Right now, the line is -2.5 Alabama on the road, and the over/under's 55.5. I know you have some strong.
Come here.
But Jake, what you got for this one to start?
This is the make me feel better again game. Just think about the mental roller coaster that both Tennessee and Alabama fans have been on the last 3 weeks. The ultimate high. The ultimate high. You look at Bama, Kalen DeBoer. You're playing Georgia at home. It's a changing of the guard. You win it. Hey, we got our guy. We're going to keep this ship cruising. Then oh my God, lose to Vanderbilt. You let the fat kid with asthma beat you in the decathlon. That's what happened. All respect to Vanderbilt. Then if you're Tennessee, you're Tennessee. You come into this year, hey, a lot of high hopes, right? Maybe we're a year away. We really like what our defense looks like. And all of a sudden, you're rolling kids. You're rolling them. Nico looks good. It's making sense. Then all of a sudden, you have a game against Oklahoma where you're like, oh, all right, we're on the road. Nico's first SEC road game. We still won it. Look at us. Josh Heupel's talking about we're a defensive team that runs the ball. That's right, because this offense is going to figure it out. And then Arkansas. Oh, no, it goes off the cliff. Then you're like, all right, well, it was a road game thing with Nico. Let's get him back home against Florida, a team their head coach is basically fired. We'll beat him to death, and everybody will feel good again. And then you're in a fist fight with Florida. You're having to beat Florida in overtime now? So if you're a Tennessee and Alabama fan, this is the game that's going to get you that little bit of that high again, right? They say you never get as you're still chasing that first time to get you as excited or whatever it is. This feels like that type of game, but when you look at it and break it down, I'm with Blaine. I don't know how you don't take the under in this game, which means that it'll be 70-63. But Tennessee, a little banged up on defense, Blaine. You brought up they had a linebacker who's now out for the rest of the season.
Green dot guy.
Is this the game where Alabama's defense, because of Tennessee's lack of explosive playability, right, gets back to kind of being themselves a little bit, and Jalen Milroe ends up being enough? David, when I look at this matchup, I really don't. I am. It's not clueless, but this is about as close to a pick'em as you could possibly get from
the trajectory of both of these teams the last couple of weeks. It is very perplexing, especially the way that Nico started off the year. And look, that's just what happens when you come into SEC play sometimes.
Yeah,
and every time I feel like okay, you know what? I'm going to take Alabama. I feel good about Alabama. Then I think of something. I think about like Rocket Sanders averaging 5 yards a carry against South Carolina. I think about, oh, wait, the way Diego Pavia was running the football when they had to play Vanderbilt. Are they going to run Nico more? Like, Nico has all the tools for Tennessee. I went back and rewatched the game against Florida again this morning. Like, he can make all the throws. He has all the tools. The fumble at the mesh point was bad. The interception that he threw was bad. The mistakes are bad, right? He's a young guy, and just right now, I like Alabama's chances to go on the road and win the football game, but there's just always something that sticks in the back of my mind, like, here's how Tennessee could exploit a certain area.
And all the things you just described about Nico are physical attributes. Mm-hmm. His ability to run, his arm talent, being able to throw the ball far, and we've seen him be able to throw the changeup. I think his biggest problem is mental right now. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he trusts himself down the field. And throwing that interception against Florida, I don't think helped. So, Blaine, I want to ask you let's start with Tennessee's offense versus Alabama's defense. If you're Josh Heupel this week, what are you telling Nico to let him, because you're going to, as good as Tennessee's defense has been, Alabama's going to find ways to score, I think. I think they're going to find a way to score with Jalen Milroe. And Ryan Williams, who's a big playmaker. If you're Josh Heupel, what are you telling Nico mentally? Are you like, you know what? You got to stop thinking so damn much. You're thinking so much, it's analysis by paralysis. We're going to call shot plays. Because against, this past week against Florida, they had 3 shots that were wide open. And Nico missed all 3 of them. All 3 of them deep, and one over the middle where he had a guy. What are you telling Nico this week, like mentally, like to get him ready to go out and have a big game, to be that guy that Tennessee fans and a lot of the college football world are waiting to see?
First thing I would tell him is to quit overthinking things. The one thing you can always tell with phenomenal athletes, whether that's on defense or offense, and it's kind of the conversation we've had about Harold Perkins through the years. You're thinking too much. If you think too much, it slows the natural pace of your gameplay. Right? And you really don't know what you're looking at. And I've said this for multiple weeks going back to the Oklahoma game. They might have won, but Nico hasn't looked good against an opponent with a pulse. And we can sit here and talk about Oklahoma's defense and Arkansas's defense. That's all I heard about. You saw what we saw in the Florida game. You have to let him go. Sooner or later, the bird has to leave the nest. You can't be out there scared to make a mistake. Because if you're scared to make a mistake, that's when the mistakes happen. You have to go play football. Be who we think that you are. The guy we're paying, what, $6 million or something like that? You have to let him loose, man. You have to let him loose. And it's Josh Heupel's job to put him in the best situations. I will give Nico this credit. I think the offensive line the last 2 weeks have been terrible. Yeah. Have been really, really bad, especially on that left side of the offensive line. And I'm not sure if they lost a guy or not. But we can talk about Alabama's personnel on defense, and they haven't looked great. But there's NFL guys running around on that field.
Well, I said the same thing about Georgia.
Sooner or later, your personnel has to play who they are. Well, and right now, if you're a Tennessee fan, I'm worried. I'm worried about Nico in this football game because he's getting to the point now where he takes a snap, he looks at his main read, he ducks his eyes, and he runs. Yeah. That's what he does. That's not going to win this football game because this isn't Florida on the other side. This is Jalen Milroe and this offense.
David, let me bring up this point. One thing that helped Georgia in the second half, and I think took a lot of the thinking out of it, was that they were going really fast. Mm-hmm. Right? That's, you ask why some quarterbacks are so much better in a 2-minute drill than they are during the rest of the game. Well, it's because you're taking a lot of the thinking out of it. Not that you just can't think, but you know this better than anybody. You're going fast. You're having to make those decisions. You don't have time to sit there and think on them. I really believe, and I said Georgia needs to go up tempo more. What did they do against Auburn coming out? They went up tempo and it worked. Tennessee isn't going as fast as what Tennessee normally does because they're saying, you know what, I guess we're going to have to win this game with defense. Yeah. So we don't want the defense out there for all these snaps. But one of the biggest advantages to take the thinking out of it and playing quarterback for Josh Heupel and going that fast is it makes it simpler. You're catching defenses in base more because you're going faster. The math is already done. It's not a Sudoku, right? It's simple addition. So if you're Tennessee, at some point you say, you know what, we got to go back to being us on offense. We got to start going fast. And damn it, if we got the defense out there for extra snaps, well, then they're out there. But we have to at some point, and you may get a 2-for-1. You may be able to catch Bama because they're actually been pretty predictable in what they're doing defensively. You may catch them in base a lot or in man-free a lot or whatever they're doing and make it easier for Nico to think. But you're also going so fast that you don't have time for Nico to sit there and think about it in between plays. Well, I'm getting this call in. well, I guess we're going slow because it's going to be a defensive game. I just don't need to screw it up. That's what it seems like.
It'd be interesting to see if they switch that up against Alabama or not, because you don't want Jalen Milroe to be on the field any more than he needs to be. But if that's what puts your offense in the best position, then that's what you need to do. If I was allowed to give one recommendation to Tennessee on offense, it would be this: to roll Nico out more. And they did it some against Florida and had a lot of success. I would do it even more. Think about all the problems we just mentioned, rolling him out solves, right? One, it helps simplify your progressions because you're not having to read
eliminating
full
half
field,
the field,
right? You eliminate half the field. Two, helps the offensive line. Three, you get a young quarterback who can run the football really well, already on the move to set up for the run if he doesn't let the football go. Now, one point that people will counter with is, yeah, but then you become so right-hand dominant, you're only doing that to his right hand. They rolled him to the left against Florida, and he had several completions.
Yeah, well, y'all's ass got to move the ball at some point. So right-hand dominant,
and they
left-hand
run the ball
dominant,
so well that you can also roll off a play action. Incidentally, I've been calling for Alabama to do this more with Jalen Milroe, too, so I'd be doing it more with both the quarterbacks to get running quarterbacks on the move early with more of an RPO-type system, but especially Tennessee, I'd be rolling him all the time.
If I'm Tennessee and Alabama from a defensive standpoint, I am keeping contained this entire game. Like you almost have to approach Jalen Milroe the same way you approach Nico. You can't, one, rush past him. Two, we're keeping you in the pocket, right? You're not going to get outside the pocket.
That, and I'm running 75% zone coverage.
Yeah, I'm not getting in man.
I'm running nothing but zone. I don't care what we do. You got to have some, unless you're apparently Miami, who just only runs man, you have to have some zone and some man concepts. Sometimes you have split coverage where you go half and half. I am giving Jalen Milroe all the zone coverage because it does two things. One, it does cause him trouble when he tries to elongate the play. We saw that against South Carolina, that interception he threw in the end zone. He didn't see that corner in cover two working back. But also, when he takes off and runs, at least some of my DBs or second-level guys' eyes aren't turned around in man coverage where Jalen Milroe hits his head for 80 yards. But to that point, right, to Alabama, the schematical point on defense, guys, they run a lot of man. So to your point, David, if I'm going to roll out, it's a lot easier for me to pick guys in man than it is in zone, just like in basketball, because a lot of times now you do some match stuff, some mixed stuff out of man. We know that. Just go look at the Ripliz match stuff that Saban does. But a lot of times it's cat coverage. I've got this cat. You've got that cat. If we run into each other, there ain't no switching. So if you run one pick plays and eliminate half the field, if Alabama's going to sit their ass in man coverage the whole game, you can pick them apart, and then that helps Nico in the run game. But I don't think Tennessee can run and hide in this one on offense. Because eventually, as good as you are and as good as Tennessee's on defense, Jalen Milroe is going to make a guy miss in the backfield and throw it to Ryan Williams, who's going to do a quadruple backflip with a suplex jump, land on one hand, and go score. And at some point, you've got to take some chances.
Yeah, we saw this in the South Carolina game last week. Alabama's offensive line is vulnerable in certain spots. And you can say what you want about South Carolina's defensive line.
Who's got a better defensive line, South Carolina or Tennessee? I'll give you credit. Last week, you said South Carolina's got one of the best defensive lines in the country. I said I thought they were really good, but not one of the best in the country. Watching them cats run around on defense, South Carolina always
South Carolina has two first-rounders playing end.
And Dylan Stewart may be better.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Freshman.
Yeah, and Bernard's a dog, too. But like right now, I would maybe lean a little bit Tennessee because of depth.
Yeah.
But this front for Tennessee is for real, right? And if you're Alabama, you're walking to another week where you're going to have to game plan these guys up front because your tackles did not play good against South Carolina. And these guys, Pierce and all these guys are going to come in and try to get after.
It's a money-making game for them, too.
Absolutely, for 4 quarters. So it's going to be interesting. I'm just so excited about the game plan.
Oh, you know what? One last point here. I know we're about ready to move on, but Tennessee in the red zone is another thing that stood out to me. They move the ball so well in between the 20s, but we always talk about, like, play callers make their money in the red zone. That's one of those things where when they're not able to have these clearing concepts and they're not able to run digs that are wide open, like Nico has been struggling more in the red zone. I don't know if that's just like the type of plays they're dialing up for him, or that's the thing that in the bowl game, the quarterback
against Iowa. That's where the quarterback
ran for 4 touchdowns or something.
You want to know the great equalizer to the field shrinking in the red zone? It's being able to truly get a hat on a hat, and that's what the quarterback run does. They just haven't done it. And I get it. You don't want to get him some people are like, well, they're trying to wait for these big games, for the Bama game to run him or whatever. At some point, you got to throw that script away. He needs to start running because it's a huge thing for him. Let's get to the chat. Then let's get to this bracket, best bets, and we'll get to phone calls.
All right, let's go to Mikey. Mikey, what's up? He says, is the loser of Tennessee, Alabama eliminated from the playoffs?
I don't think they're eliminated. You got, to me, of all the big dogs in the SEC that are still in it right now, the magic number is 3 in a bad way, I guess. To me, I don't think 9-3 gets you in this current college landscape. I don't care if you're Bama. I don't care if you're Georgia or whatever. I don't think 9-3 gets you in. So you look at Ole Miss, Jackson Dart in his press conference, he said the truth. He's like, well, we got to win out now because you got 2 losses. You got to go 10-2. Like, that's the magic number. And you look around. That's why I like keeping an eye, and we're going to get in this in the bracket on what's going on in the Big 12, is a big deal because Iowa State and BYU don't play each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what happens now if all of a sudden, this is crazy to say, but Iowa State goes 12-0 and BYU loses to Iowa State in the conference championship and it's 11-1. They're putting 11-1 BYU over 9-3 Bama.
Yeah, that's where we'll see 2 Big 12 teams make it. So if the loser of this game is eliminated from the playoff, that was the question?
I don't think
don't think it is if it's Alabama because you will have had the win over Georgia, and I still think Georgia's going to be pretty good throughout the season despite if they pick up another loss. And
Tennessee still gets their shot at Georgia.
And honestly, the loser of this game might be eliminated from SEC championship contention, which would save them from picking up another loss, to be honest.
Very true. And 10-3 is a very interesting predicament that we haven't gotten into yet when we get to the college football playoff bracket. All right, one more.
Let's go to Blitz, Bama Blitz. He says, I've never seen an Alabama team shoot themselves in the foot so many times. I wouldn't be surprised if Tennessee doesn't win this game, but Alabama loses it.
I don't think that's crazy to say. Here's what I think about Alabama. And Blaine, I can't remember if this is on the Sunday recap or if we were just talking at the house, which is basically what the Sunday recap is. I haven't seen Bama look this mortal in a while.
Yeah, they bleed.
A lot of people haven't seen Bama bleed like this. They're not used to it. That intimidation factor for Bama's gone. I remember watching, even as a fan, when Nick Saban really had it rolling, even toward the end when they didn't win the national championship for 3 years in a row. When you played Bama, Bama just being Bama was worth 4 to 7 points. I don't care where you played them. That fear factor is gone because they don't have a monopoly on all the talent in college football, especially at the line of scrimmage. Like, there were some games where you watch Bama walk out there on the field and you're like, they're gonna kill Notre Dame in the national championship game. You can just tell. That's not the case anymore. Now we're watching Alabama, and it's not just self-inflicted wounds. I want to get the self-inflicted wounds is one thing, and we've talked about it, and that's a real thing. Bama, as far as overall personnel, and I'm not trying to take a shot at Kalen DeBoer or Alabama, it's just the truth. They are not the big dog personnel-wise. They can't just show up and push you around and that's it. They can't do that anymore. But when we've watched this for so long, and we've been conditioned as college football fans that when Bama's on, they're better than the team they're playing, and it's probably by a lot, it's still weird to see them not be that. Just like it was kind of weird to watch Georgia get pushed around, right? When we've kind of got accustomed to seeing Georgia big dog everybody. So to me, it's not just the self-inflicted wounds. I just don't think they got all the cats anymore. And it's just weird to see for me.
The self-inflicted wounds part of that really started the last couple of years under Nick Saban. Remember the last time Alabama went to Neyland and they lost to Tennessee and Tennessee throws the goalposts in the river? I think they had 13 penalties that game, something like that. And they lost at LSU that same year. So some of these things started creeping in the last couple of years of Saban. But when you add in the personnel side of it too, which you're just going to see more and more of in a transfer portal and NIL era,
the way it works now.
Then you just see more parity.
And it's not because Kalen DeBoer couldn't monopolize it back then. I think he could have at a place like Bama, but I don't think you can monopolize the sport now. I think Ohio State's the closest thing because they spent $20 million on NIL to build that team. I just don't think you can build that dominant of a team in this era, which makes it kind of a little bit more. I know the Chiefs have won a couple Super Bowls in a row, but makes it a little more like the NFL, right? Which I'm fine with that being a little more like the NFL. But if you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot, you need to be a responsible man. All right? And what do responsible men do, David and Blaine? They take care of their bodies. All right? We don't get all the support that we need typically in our diets in the modern society. I don't. I'm eating a meatball sub tonight. Fight me. My wife's a great cook. But I'll tell you what I am taking. All right, the Responsible Man multivitamin that is packed with 33 key ingredients that support your immune system, sharpen your brain, and keep your heart and muscles strong. Plus, it's a Daily Wire's venture company. It's made right here in the USA. We're not getting this from Serbia or anywhere. All right, shout out Serbia. I'm sure you guys are cool. All right, maybe. I don't know. I'm not a map scientist. But This is right here in the United States of America. We wouldn't endorse this product if we didn't believe it. And, David, it's got a nice little minty flavor,
yes,
too.
It does. Minty.
Doesn't smell like it was smuggled over here, because it's not. No cheap imports, no outsourcing. Blaine, can you just sum up Responsible Man multivitamin with one word for me?
Yeah, perfection.
Okay, you typically go to that one a lot, but I like it. Right now, you can take advantage of Responsible Man's fall sale and get 50% off your order, or just $19.99 off your first order. Just head over to responsibleman.com and use code BOOSTER, BOOSTER, at checkout. But hurry, this deal won't last long. Remember, a strong America needs strong men, and strong men start with Responsible Man. You bow to your
strong men more than ever.
That's exactly right. Go to responsibleman.com. Use code BOOSTER for 50% off. All right, boys, the phone lines are going to open here in 1 minute, but we got to get, and I want to explain this. Let's put our college football playoff bracket up here. David, can you explain to the people how this is a snapshot in time, please, and not what we think is going to happen?
This is a snapshot in time and not what we think is going to happen.
Defined perfectly by David Cohn, the theologian.
David, great job, Dave.
So this is a snapshot in time. This is where it sits right now, and these teams still have to play each other. Hell, Georgia plays Texas this weekend. Alabama's going to play Tennessee this weekend. So much is going to happen. But right now, as we sit, Monday, October, whatever, 2024, we have, and I'll tell everybody on audio, we have Texas as the number 1 overall seed, right? We have Oregon as the number 2 overall seed, Miami as the number 3 overall seed, and Iowa State. Who'd have thunk it, boys?
Wow.
Grab your corn and close your eyes, because you're in for a hell of a surprise. That's Iowa State at 4.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Not again. And then we go
that was a layup. Then we go straight to Penn State at 5.
What a segue.
Penn State at 5, playing the group of 5 team, Army. That's right. I know Army and Navy are undefeated. It's so awesome to put them there. So Penn State would be playing Army. That's the 12 versus 5 game. All right, then we go over. We got Clemson playing Ohio State in the 11-6 game. That would be an absolute banger. And then Bama plays the BYU. That's true. In the 7-10 matchup, that would be an awesome game and an awesome environment. That would be BYU riding their bikes all the way to Tuscaloosa to play that one. And then Georgia and LSU, right? SEC championship rematch.
How many arrests?
All of them. All of them.
That game.
The 8-9 game. That would be just, even that, and it's going to change. It's probably going to be totally different than that in most aspects. But just looking at that right now and thinking about the landscape of college football this year, guys, how much freaking fun would that be?
Come on, Army!
I love it.
Oh, I'm rooting for
Army.
How cool is it to have Army up there as the G5 team? And then this is our first playoff prediction so far that has that second Big 12 team in there.
Yeah.
With
Well,
BYU,
we got 2.
Which obviously, like you said, they don't play Iowa State, so that could be very interesting.
And we have Alabama at 7 and Georgia at 8.
So
everybody, because Alabama did
beat Georgia. All right,
we will get Alabama LSU, so that 7-9 matchup, we'll get that. We'll get Buckeyes Penn State. That's 5 and 6. What else will we get? That's it right now.
Well, on the outside looking in right now, we had we kept going back and forth, which should we put LSU there or put A&M there? The reason we put LSU is because they have that better win, right, over Ole Miss. I know they lost to USC. I know Notre Dame has only lost 1 game, but it was to Northern Illinois. Mm-hmm. Remember, Notre Dame beat Texas A&M. So that one's
in this scenario here, if Army ends up being the group of 5 team, that means they beat Notre Dame, really.
And that's why we had Army there and Notre Dame not in, because I don't think 10-2 Notre Dame gets in. I think 11-1 Notre Dame with a loss against Northern Illinois gets in, but 10-2 Notre Dame with a loss against Northern Illinois and Army, even though Army's the representative that we have up there from the group of 5, I don't think they get it.
Now, Miami and Clemson, like we said, don't play in the regular season, but that could be the ACC championship
for
game.
sure.
It could be, and in that case, we have a 10-2 Clemson team getting in that 11 spot. I think a 10-2 Clemson.
They'd be 11-2 actually at that point.
Yes, 11-2. I'm sorry, that's one another reason, because they would be 11-1 in the regular season, and then having lost that game to Miami.
Their only loss to Georgia.
Which I think right now, guys, Miami, Clemson on a neutral field, I'm taking Clemson.
Yeah, that'd be a heck of a game.
I'm taking Clemson.
So an undefeated Army team gets over a 1-loss Boise State
has to be, because they would have beat Notre Dame, and an undefeated Navy team who's doing some things right now.
I mean, we don't want to get into the conversation of Army and Navy in that conference championship game.
Yeah, have we gotten any answer on that?
I don't know.
Like, is that going to be
more? What we need to do is let it cook for a couple weeks, right? And then see if both of them are still undefeated. And then you really got to start running that ground ball out in that scenario, which is like off-the-wall,
And look,
exotic alternative scenario that could come.
I wouldn't be surprised to see that team sitting at number 5, sitting at number 2 at the end of the
No, not at all. Not Penn State plays Ohio State at home.
Yeah.
So to me, David, and again, I know Oregon's got to go to Michigan. I don't think Oregon plays Penn State. I don't think they do. So is that Penn State-Ohio State game in a couple weeks basically a play-in for the Big Ten championship against Oregon, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, because the winner will have the head-to-head, too.
Penn State's rest of their schedule, you're on the road at Wisconsin this weekend. You have Ohio State at home, Washington at home. The finish of the year at Purdue, at Minnesota, and Maryland.
God, if you're Penn State.
So they don't go out west again.
I mean, you couldn't be feeling better about it.
People don't realize how big of a win that was
against USC. Oh, it was huge.
USC.
2 time zones away, man.
And coming back down 14 at half. I will say, if you're Penn State, even if you lose that Ohio State game at home, I mean, there's a really good shot you finish 11-1. You're in the playoff anyway, probably at that 5 spot. Or the 6th spot with trading places with Ohio State, I guess. All right, what's the chat thing?
It's got a big Rick. He says Army has to go toe-to-toe with numerous top 25 programs the past few years. Michigan and Oklahoma come to mind. Still got to finish the job and get that W, though. Do you see them going undefeated this year?
I'll tell you, Army, Notre Dame, and I believe that game is at Notre Dame or it may be neutral site. I can't really remember. I think Army matches up pretty dadgum good against Notre Dame. I really think they do.
All right, let's go to G-Bert. What's up, man? It says, how do we feel about the Oregon-Purdue game this week? Could be a trap game, huge letdown spot. And first game not in Pacific time zone for Oregon. I have it around 21. The line is currently at 27.
I mean, I don't like Purdue to win the game. I think Purdue giving Illinois a run for their money gives Dan Lanning something to point to and say, look, this isn't a team that just keeps getting blown out. And I think Oregon is older. Right, you got an older quarterback in Dylan Gabriel. You've got veterans all on that team. I think they can just out-talent Purdue at the end of the day, even if they don't play well. If they just play okay, they're better than Purdue. But I could see where it's a trap spot, where you're worried about because I think they got, Michigan in 2 weeks? Oregon does? After Purdue, they got Michigan, I think. Maybe wrong on that. But it is kind of sandwiched in between, obviously, 2 big games.
Man, Notre Dame and Army play the Saturday before Thanksgiving in Yankee Stadium.
Man. Under
for sure.
I wouldn't even question it. All right, let's go to JWC. What's up, man? He says, who would be playing Texas in the SEC championship game?
That's a good question.
I mean, that one's just, I could sit here and give you all the scenarios of the teams that are still alive. Even if, like David said, if Texas loses to Texas A&M last game of the season, but was undefeated up to that point.
I mean, Texas A&M doesn't have a conference.
It's going to be Texas A&M and Texas,
and then
probably.
Keep in mind, LSU and Alabama is going to be in Baton Rouge. Yep. Like neither LSU's loss isn't a conference loss.
There's more teams that are able to make the SEC championship right now than there has been in a really long time, at least in my mind. Unless I'm just losing it. All right, one more, and let's get to these bets and then calls.
Let's go to Adam East. He says, Penn State? Come on, man. Miami? Come on, dude. This is going to be cupcake playoffs. No one believes in those teams. Well, what do you want us to do, dog?
Yeah, like...
You want us to invent teams to come in here and play?
The rules are the 4 that win the Power 4 conferences get that bye and get the first through 4 seeds. So do I think Miami right now is the top 4 team in the country? I do not. But guess what? Just by the way the rules are written, if they win the ACC, they're in the top 4, bud. And I can go ahead and tell you, Penn State right now is a problem. They're a problem because they made probably the best coordinator hire of the offseason in bringing Kotelnicki in that has helped Drew Aller out a lot. Penn State isn't like Michigan from this. That's what Penn State has been. They have basically been Michigan from this year for the past 3 years, right? That's not who they are anymore. Schematically and ability-wise at the quarterback position, and they're still damn good on defense. That's what makes them scary.
Let's go to Mike McLean. What's up, Mike? He says, I think Texas, Georgia, Oregon, and Ohio State are evenly matched, and anyone could beat and get beaten by anyone this year.
That's what's going to make the playoff absolutely elite.
I tweeted this earlier. I want to get y'all's thoughts. Do you think everybody in college football is just bad, or do you think everybody in college football is just good? Since we don't have an elite team, is it more parity because of the portal and NIL, or is everybody just below mediocre this year?
Well, I think the way I would phrase it is, I think there's a lot of really good teams so far this year. I don't know if there's an elite team. I know there's not elite teams, but I don't know if that's why Texas this weekend, I'm holding out to see if they put it all together. It's why we opened with it in all three phases and look dominant. I think we can point to Texas and say, all right, there's the lead. I know they're ranked number 1 in the AP. I'm just talking about eye test and what I think individually. There's the number 1 team overall who can catch them. So I think it's a good thing. I would rather have it where there's a lot of really good teams and not just one elite team that beats the hell out of everybody. Or I'd rather have a lot of elite teams. I want parity. That's what I want, and that's what we got. So I think it's a good thing.
All right, let's go to JW. What's up, man? He says, Army and Navy both being good at something is something that can bring our country together, fellas.
Yeah, I mean, we're back-to-back World War champs, so obviously they've been good at something before. But this
and Germany's getting their last punishment soon.
Germany is.
Yeah, the Giants and the Panthers are playing each other in
true.
Germany, so that's their last punishment, which is deserved.
Yeah, without a doubt. All right, I want to move on to some of these early bets, guys, before we go to phone calls that we like. I've got 4 that I'm looking at right now that I'm super head over heels and L with. Give me BYU minus 9.5 at home against Oklahoma State. I'm on the train. I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. No Coca-Colas after 9 o'clock. I believe in you guys. And Oklahoma State, biggest letdown of the season? Or would you say Ole Miss has been, now that they got 2 losses? I'd have to say Oklahoma State, right?
Yeah.
I would say Oklahoma State. So give me BYU minus 9.5. Then Army. I'm taking them until they don't come through for me. One of my locks this week, I should have just made them every bet. Give me Army minus 15. Against who? I don't care.
It's already going up.
I don't care. Give me Army minus 15, lock it in right now. And then Alabama, Tennessee under 56. I've got to take that. There's no way I don't take that. And then, guys, I don't think this would be a bad money line bet. All right, maybe one of my dogs of the week. But give me Georgia Tech plus 11.5.
I love it. Thank you.
You're going to give me 11.5 for Georgia Tech, and Notre Dame can't throw the ball? Come on, give me that. Give me a little Brent Key getting some of that early season magic.
I really like that one. How about Arizona State, just money line at Cincinnati, plus
Why not full send?
Or if you don't want money line, you could get the 3 points. It's plus 3 right now. What about Rutgers, UCLA under 41? Yeah. Rutgers can't score. And I don't think
can't throw it. Try to tell everybody
that great either. Under 41 minus
Callie McManus can deliver pizzas, can't deliver pass.
Hey, if Wisconsin's going to play like that, like they did last weekend, I'll take Wisconsin minus 6.5 at Northwestern right now. That's one I'm looking at. Also, South Carolina money line at Oklahoma right now is plus 140.
You think they get up again?
Maybe. Maybe. I mean,
the under in that game, the over under is like what, 40?
Is it 40 right now?
Yeah, it was 40.
Okay, we'll take the under. I like it. Alabama minus 135 money line. Just don't even mess with the points.
Just like this is
just the points to win.
Who'd have thought you could get Bama money line minus 135 for anything?
How about Georgia plus 3.5 minus 110? Who wants to believe with me?
I can't. I hope you pick Georgia, David. I hope you do. Blaine, what do you got?
All right. I love all your bets. I have similar ones I like. I think you should take Alabama in the points at 2.5. I think Alabama's a better football team, and I like the under at 56.5. This game has 24-17 written all over it.
It does.
Written all over it. Don't let that over fool you. I really like the under, and I'm going to roll with the boys again. Give me Vanderbilt minus 26.5 at home against Ball State after that disaster of a game against Kent State.
Still won by a team,
but you lost the cover. You give up a 60-yard touchdown with 15 seconds left. Inexcusable, in my opinion. I really like Texas A&M on the road at Mississippi State. That's going off at minus 13.5. If Wegman keeps playing the way they do, you want to talk about a really underrated side of the ball. Texas A&M's damn good on defense, especially that front seven. And
their linebackers are good.
I'm gonna go with I'm going with Bowling Green minus 19.5. You
light it up.
You're playing against guess who? Kent State this weekend. I'm gonna keep rolling against them. I don't care about that cover last week. I do not believe in it. And right now, I think Army is probably the best bet on the board.
I'm riding with Army until the motor stops. Literally. They're just beating people to death. And it's like a new version of triple option.
It is.
Right? It's like putting, like mixing up the grilled cheese, like putting the cheese on top of the sandwich instead of in between. You mix it up, sometimes it's a little more fun, right? It makes it a little more innovative. But speaking about fun and innovative, let's get to the phone lines, Dave.
All right, phone lines. Hold on, let me pull it up here.
Pull that up.
Who's up first today? Let's go to Sean in Baton Rouge. Sean, what's going on?
Well, if it isn't 3 guys who picked Ole Miss, what am I going to do with you 3?
Look. Well, y'all let me down against USC in the beginning of this season. So I will say this, though. Let's not act like picking Ole Miss was crazy, and then in reality, they kind of blew it. You got to give LSU credit. You came back and fought, but goodness gracious, I still think Ole Miss looked like the better team. They just blew it. And Nussmeier, you got to give him credit. That last throw he made, not the one to win the game, but the one to send the game into overtime was just chef's kiss.
Well, whatever you do, don't go back and look at my preseason call because I had a couple of, let's call it incorrect projections, but that's preseason. We don't care about preseason.
True.
All right. Let me ask you guys a question. I am of the belief that LSU has everything that it takes. They have shown thus far that they can go undefeated the rest of the way. I believe their opponents have shown that they're gettable, every single one of them. My question to you is, who do you believe is the team most likely to trip up LSU one more time if they were to try and get to the SEC championship and maybe even the college football playoff?
Well, hell, I think y'all may get there with one more loss in the SEC still, because that's the one nice thing about losing that opening game was that it was not a conference game. So could we go through LSU?
The next 3 weeks are, really.
You got obviously Arkansas on the road.
If you want it.
Yeah, Blaine's got
it. Arkansas on the road this weekend. And you go to A&M. You have Alabama at home. Then you're at Florida. Vandy at home. Then you finish the year against Oklahoma.
Well, Vandy's the toughest matchup. I think we can agree.
No, I think probably the toughest matchup you have left
at A&M.
Yeah.
Like, do we? No, honestly, right now, Sean, as an LSU fan, all right, and just as a college football fan in general, actually, take your LSU hat off right now. Are you more worried about playing Bama at home or going on the road to play A&M?
Well, it's hard to speak objectively, but, I mean, if you get Bama off of a bye week at night at home, Tiger Stadium, it is hard for me to say that is a matchup LSU doesn't look favorably in, especially with Bama looking gettable the last 2 weeks. I would agree with you and say that Texas A&M is the game.
That's where we're at, right? And this game at Arkansas, too. Now, Arkansas is confident as hell after that win over Tennessee.
Like, y'all don't need to get in the business of looking ahead. Yeah. Like, I promise you, this Arkansas team is good.
Yeah. And Sam Pittman saved his job, probably.
Like, Taylor Green, there's a reason this game's a 2.5-point spread. Like, Taylor Green, it's not about the running thing with me and Taylor. I know he can run. The balls he was thrown against Tennessee.
In big games,
in big moments in that football game. I'm telling you, LSU fans, and I'm sure Brian Kelly will have those guys ready. You cannot talk. The Ole Miss, it's done. You won. I don't want to hear another word about Ole Miss from any LSU people. It's time to look ahead to what you got Saturday.
And that's a rivalry game.
Hey, look, don't get it twisted. I know now more than ever, every single game the rest of the way home is going to be a dogfight. There's no easy win.
Yeah, it's crazy to say that with Vanderbilt.
Here's what's crazy, and Sean, thanks for your call. Here's what's crazy. We're to the point in 2024 in college football where Blaine just read off a schedule, the last 6 games of a schedule, and probably the third most game I'm worried about is against Alabama. And that included Arkansas and Vandy on the list. Like, you actually said Vandy, and I was like, wow, shit, that kind of sucks. That's where we're at right now, Sean. But it's going to be interesting.
Great call, man.
Sean. All right, let's go to Thad in Kansas. Thad, what's up, man?
Boys, how's it going today?
What is up,
dude?
So, I usually call in and talk about Oklahoma, but there's enough frustration there that ball saw more airtime than Taylor Swift at a Chiefs game.
Yeah.
And
good call.
I wanted to my question more so is about my second favorite team, which is my wife's first favorite team, K-State, with the commentators being like worshiping Deion Sanders and his entourage that he had in the sideline. Like, that's worse than Taylor Swift. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Well, Thad, I've got no problem with announcers, like having fun. And I always think how I would do it as a play-by-play guy, which is something I've thought about doing before. And I would have fun. I would want to have fun. But you still have to stay objective. And we've seen this with Colorado. I saw this a lot with Nick Saban teams in Alabama, if we're going to be honest. It's like the commentators are rooting for them. I used to watch Gary Danielson and them on CBS, and they were rooting for Alabama. Like Vern Lundquist and Gary Danielson were rooting for Alabama in those games. Whenever Colorado's on, and Gus Johnson or somebody has the call, I don't know who was on it that night because I was watching it in the 4-box. They root for him. They actively root for him. Your job is not to root for somebody. You can point out how cool something is, or you can point out where this guy is, but your job, it's the same problem we have with news in the media. It's not really just, there's nothing in the middle about it. Like, it's either one side or the other, right? So to me, when I turn on the game, I want the play-by-play guy and the color commentator to be down the line telling me what's going on in the game. Bring up something cool. Hey, the mascot from Georgia, just took a dump on the sidelines. That's hilarious.
Oh, no.
Or Harry Styles going down the hill at App State. That's great. But they actively root for these guys, which means they are rooting against the other team. That's not your job. That's why they have announcers that belong to the school, where if you want to hear that, you link up to the radio broadcast of your guy that can complain about the referees or talk about how cool it is for Deion Sanders to be the coach there. We just kind of jumped the shark. I think they let too many people be broadcast.
This is nuts. The glazing for Deion's been that way since he got to Colorado. He hadn't won anything at Colorado, which blows my mind. But you see this everywhere, man. Like anytime the Chiefs are on and Chris Collinsworth is calling the game, Patrick Mahomes can throw a 4-yard out route, and you think he just cured cancer. So, like, this is a lot more than... It's just, it blows my mind. Like, I know exactly what you're talking about. I watched this football game. They were basically rooting for Colorado to win.
Yeah, that's not your job. Like that's not your job at all. And you don't have to oversell Deion Sanders. I see him on every commercial. Like, everywhere I look, he's probably going to be out by my car when I walk out here earlier, somehow, in some shape, form, or fashion. But, again, it's bad. I think a lot of the commentating has gotten really bad. Really bad. I mean, I could sit on here. We're all a fan of somebody. David, you played at Michigan. I'm from Auburn. Went to South Alabama.
If they put me on Auburn broadcast, I'd go and talk about how bad we are.
Tell the truth. Just tell the truth. But it's like they're scared. Maybe they are.
That was a great game, though, Kansas State, Colorado.
Phenomenal.
Dude, say what you want about Colorado. They play great games.
Yeah.
They're fascinating
Someone
games.
check on Joe Klatt since Colorado lost. I don't know how he's doing.
He's I don't know who glazed him harder, RG3 eating that croissant or Joe Klatt when he watches a Colorado game.
Thanks for calling, man.
Well,
Great call. Appreciate it, brother.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
All right, let's go to Tennyson in Texas. Tennyson, talk to us.
Hey, guys. I just wanted to get y'all's opinion on this. I know there was an A&M fan that wrote in, and I got to say, I disagree for 3 reasons that we should want Texas to lose this game, if you guys don't mind.
Good.
First off, I'll get the obvious one out of the way. I can't stand Texas. I want them to lose every game except for this one.
Yeah.
We're in a weird situation where A&M and Texas actually help each other by both being good this year. And so our strength of schedule is going to rise. Our stock's going to rise. If we're really good and they're really good and somehow we pull it off at the end of the year, that our resume just looks really, really great without the blemish of Notre Dame. But 10 games later, nobody's going to really talk about that. Secondly, they're playing Georgia. Georgia's already got a conference loss. We really want to compete in the conference. Georgia getting a second loss effectively eliminates them from the contention for the SEC title. So,
and you don't play Georgia,
right? And I trust Georgia more to win out down the stretch with the rest of their schedule aside from Texas. I would rather them effectively be eliminated from the conference title race this weekend.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the third one is just based on tiebreakers and the way it all comes down. I want us to have a little bit more of a buffer than just one conference loss. Like, let's say we lose. By the way, Blaine, I like that you're being nice to A&M, but Mississippi State plus 15. I'm not saying they're going to win outright, but Mississippi State plus 15 looks pretty good because the last time we covered a double-digit spread on the road, you got to go back to 2021 against Missouri.
So you're due.
I don't know.
See, that's the dichotomy of man right there. Tennyson, I think you bring up 3 great points. To me, and maybe this makes me a sick individual, but there's
plenty of things I do.
Yeah. There's a couple different types of hate, right? There's just blanket hate where you just want them to lose every game. Like, you're just like, all right, just lose, just because I want you to lose. But then there's the type of hate where you want them to have hope for a while. You want them to actually get together, like to really circle the wagons and then rip their guts out in the end. And that's what Texas A&M has a chance to do against Texas. Either way, really. But if you want to talk about what would hurt the most is if Texas does have 1 loss by the time they play y'all, and y'all have no losses in the SEC. So really, you're pretty much good at that point to probably be in the SEC championship game. But then you rip their guts out for that second loss, and now they don't go to the SEC championship game, right? So to me, there's 2 types of angry people. There's the person yelling at the cashier because they won't take their coupons, or there's the cashier that's gotten yelled at for 15 years and just freaks out one day.
Oh, no.
So, just what type are you?
It's time. You want to get him tomorrow, or do you want to get him in 6 weeks?
Yeah, when it matters the most.
Yeah.
Tennyson, what's your prediction for Texas and Georgia?
My heart says Georgia's going to win, but my head says Texas just looks insane. What's the spread on that game?
3.5.
Yeah, I would
over
take Texas cover that.
Yeah,
I'd probably take Texas. I'd take Texas to cover that. I really don't want them to. I want them to. My head wants them to because it benefits us. But my heart just says that's just disgusting that I'm rooting for Texas to cover against Georgia. But I would take Texas.
Thanks for calling in,
Great
man.
call,
Great call,
Appreciate it. All right, let's go to Jimbo in New York. Jimbo, you getting a workout in or what?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? Long time no see. But
yeah, what's up, man?
First of all, how about my man Sean Tucker absolutely balling for Tampa Bay yesterday? 192 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns.
He was so good in college.
Football points.
I think people forget how good he was. Like, Sean Tucker was a menace at Syracuse.
And you know what's wild? He could be a senior there right now.
Yeah, well, Cam Rising's 45 years old and can still come back to Utah, so I'm not surprised, Jimbo.
Yeah, that's crazy. But hey, look, in terms of Kyle McCord, in a 13-game season, which is what we're looking at right now, he is currently on pace for 4,700 yards passing, 400 completions, 44 passing touchdowns, and each of these would set all-time ACC records. Now, I'm not saying he would win the Heisman Trophy, but what type of body of work would y'all need to see minimum from both Syracuse football and Kyle McCord himself to at least get an invite to New York?
Well, I mean, Kyle, he's got to put up buku numbers with the way I think Syracuse is going to finish, which they are way ahead of schedule under Fran Brown this year, especially compared to what I thought. And there's a reason Fran Brown said that they should send Ohio State a bottle of champagne for Kyle McCord. I bet his ass wouldn't slide as time expired at the end of the game, but that's a story for another day. Jimbo, I think it's probably low likelihood that he gets an invite outside of just absolutely going nuts. I need to look at the rest of Syracuse's schedule to see if he's going to have a chance to really ball out in a big game. I can't remember if they play Miami or somebody.
They play them last.
At home.
They play him last?
At home.
Okay. There's some hope there, Jimbo, but he'd have to put up stupid numbers, man.
Yep.
Which he is.
Don't forget too. We have a bye game this week, but next Thursday we have Pittsburgh though in a battle against Eli Holstein. That could be a huge game.
Pitt's undefeated too. I didn't hit that over, but
Appreciate it, Jimbo.
great call, Jimbo.
Thanks, man. All right, let's go to Dale in Texas. Dale, how you feeling today, man?
What's going on, boys?
Dale, what's up?
What's up, dude?
Hey, boys, this is Dale in Texas, a closeted Nebraska fan for my entire life.
Is this your come out story? Are you coming out to us live on the air right now?
The boys, I don't want to out myself, but it might be time.
Your parents wouldn't understand.
You don't out yourself, but you definitely just did.
Well, boys, I loved the sign in the Colorado game that said, "This is the Nebraska my dad talks about."
Yes. Yes. You guys, again, you have that one blip against Illinois, but still.
You want to talk about a game I'm not betting this weekend. It's y'all versus Indiana.
Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. Who'd have thought? Nebraska versus Indiana.
Well, boys, I got 2 questions. One, is there hope for a 10-2, maybe a 9-3 and ranked season? And is there any way Dylan Raiola stays at Nebraska next year?
Oh, I think he's staying for sure. I think he's home, and he's got family that's on that staff there, and his dad, I believe, was a legacy there as well.
Brother, too, right?
Let's go. Yeah, he's got a little brother that's committed there, who I'm sure is really good. Already got it. Schedule. I tell you what, you do a great job.
All right, you got obviously at Indiana this weekend, and then you go play the Buckeyes at Ohio State, and then you got UCLA at USC, Wisconsin at home, and then you finish the year at Iowa.
God dang, dude. I was gonna say that I feel great about 9-3. Let's see. So you got to win this one this weekend because I don't think you're beating Ohio State. So that'd be 2.
Beating UCLA.
You're beating UCLA. Then you got at USC.
Oh, man, that's tough.
That's tough. I don't know. I'm not ready to put a prediction.
You go 9-3 in that one. I mean, Matt, you got to feel really, really good about it.
And your quarterback's 13 years old.
That's true. Yeah, he's going trick-or-treating in it.
The only thing that would kind of suck, you're losing a bunch of production on your defensive side, but you're keeping Dylan.
Yeah.
And I don't see Dylan Riley going anywhere.
No, I don't either. It smells like 8-4, Dale.
What's your score this weekend, Dale?
Oh, I think it's going to be low. Nebraska, Raiola, I think, is the future. He is the truth, but there looks like there's some growing pains. But that defense is cold, boys.
Yeah, Tony White. Yeah, Tony White's for real.
If it's anything like that Rutgers game, I don't know. It's going to have to be low scoring for Nebraska to win, probably, 24-20.
Okay.
I can see that. Right. I can see that. Great call, man.
Appreciate it, man. Hats off to Indiana, too, that we're even talking about them in that.
I've been trying to tell you about Kurt Cignetti for 6 months.
Undefeated, favored by a touchdown against Nebraska.
He could make having a beeper cool. Some guys just transcend that line, man.
Some guys have
that puka shell necklace thing could work for him.
You think so?
I think he could pull it off.
All right, let's go to Parker in Kentucky. Parker, how you feel about the puka shell necklace?
That's a good question. But I'm just calling because, a couple things before I get to the main thing is I thought Texas was going to win it all before. I still think they're going to win it now. I think they're going to win out. And also, everybody needs to clearly watch out for Vandy because, my God, what have they done? What is going on?
This just feels like, well, organizationally, they've done a good job. I mean, Mark Stoops is talking about how much NIL money Vandy has. I mean, let's be easy with that. This just feels like Vandy is, I feel like I'm on that show. What was it where they used to be like, move that bus? And like they went and fixed the house.
They flipped houses.
Yeah, they flipped the house. That's what I feel like with Clark Lee. Like he's like he got all the Vandy fans out in Broadway and they're like, what can we expect? What can we expect? And Clark Lee's like, move that bus.
Extreme makeover.
And it's a win. Extreme makeover.
Thank
it's
you,
a
Ryan
win
from audio.
over Bama. And everybody goes nuts. Oh my God, there's a screened-in porch. There's a barbecue pit. There's a washer and dryer.
Look, I don't like to get on here and toot my own horn.
Oh yeah.
But the only thing I know is there's been a guy screaming expectations for a while now.
And David, you deserve credit.
Since I sat in this studio and everybody just ragged on Vanderbilt, ragged on him every week. They'll kill him. Sooner or later in the transfer portal, someone's going to go want to play for Vandy who's pretty damn good. And that's Pavia at quarterback. So there's one guy who's believed in Vanderbilt, and he's sitting in this chair. You hear that, Clark Lee? All right, if you ever get into the X-Men situation, just remember I was on your team.
Now they're going to lose to Ball State and then go beat Texas.
100%. They're following the script.
I hope not. I'm rooting for them. But the big thing is, at this point, really the main thing is, why is Louisville they just look like off?
Bro, it's like Notre Dame broke them. It's like that first quarter Notre Dame broke them.
Yeah, it's like you come in and like you cause them to fumble because, by the way, Notre Dame was great. The fans were great. Obviously, you have a couple of but like overall, everybody was great. It was a great time to be there. It was super fun. So it's just, but then and then next week you just fall apart again. I mean, don't get me wrong, SMU's not a bad team, but like we should have had them. And then and now we're going into Miami at home, and it
can all be fixed. It could all be fixed. You win this game, it would all be fixed.
It could be, but what needs to be done to be fixed?
Well, the turnovers haven't helped, obviously, but you guys, to me,
that's defensively. That's the way we built last.
I mean, all we did for a year and a half with Brahms talk about Louisville's defense and how improved they are, and if you have one bad game against Notre Dame where your offense actually puts you in a bad position early in that game multiple times.
I blame the offense mostly.
Yeah, if that is going to cause you, because the SMU game, I mean, SMU was just running the checkup on offense. Even every time Louisville would answer, the SMU would have an answer. But Parker, it's going to be interesting this weekend, buddy.
Put us in a terrible position, Notre Dame, and then our defense falls apart the next game. It's just like.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, but we'll see.
Great call, man. Big one this weekend.
All right, let's go to Johnny D in Syracuse. Johnny D, what's up?
Hey guys, calling back again. Last time I called, I told you about the 6-pack team parlay, and I didn't win. I went 3-3. But this past weekend, I hit a 12-team parlay, teaser parlay, and I just want to tell you, my picks. I hit Oregon game. I hit the Notre Dame, the Texas, the Missouri, the Louisville, the Florida Gators, the Colorado on the over. The Steelers, the Falcons, the Lions and the over.
God, you went NFL
and the
Bengals. God, you went.
Nice job,
you mixed
Johnny D.
You went oil and water, and it made a great drink. Who'd have thought, Johnny D? Start putting him in the chat. Start putting
God, I wonder what it
chat.
feels like to hit a 12-leg parlay.
Ooh, ask my wife.
I could never.
She can hit him.
You hit a big one yesterday, didn't you?
Yeah, 2-team.
Go ahead, John.
I hit not too bad. I didn't bet an awful lot on the 12-team parlay, but I paid $2,500 to 1. So
yeah. I mean, you're probably not going to bet a lot on a 12.
That's great, even if you bet one.
If you're Elon Musk or Dave Portnor or something. Do you got one for this weekend?
Yeah. Hang on a second. I want to say my pick for this weekend on the teaser is I would take Alabama and Georgia on the teaser.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be 9.5. Well, you maybe get 10.5. You can do alt nines.
I got 9.5 and 3.5.
Gotcha.
9.5 on Georgia and 3.5 on Alabama.
Don't hate. Don't hate.
Okay. Yeah, my teaser picks for this weekend coming up is Army minus 10.5, Alabama plus 3.5, Georgia plus 9.5. The over on LSU at 48.5, BYU minus 3, the Vikings plus 4.5, the Seahawks plus 8.5, the Commanders minus 1.5, and the Saints over 31.5.
Man, well, we'll see, Johnny D. The Johnny D special.
Thank you, man.
Good call.
All right, let's get one more in here. Tyler from Colorado. We only got about 20 seconds, man. What's on your mind?
Wow, that's a lot to fit in 30 seconds. So
that's what she said. Go ahead.
The Ohio State-Oregon game, and try to make it quick.
Go ahead.
But something that's kind of bit of a controversial take amongst friends of mine is I think Oregon left a ton of points on the field and could have won that game by a lot more. Just to go through it real quick.
Go ahead.
They had, what was it? Missed field goal, botched 2-point conversion, botched extra point. Ohio State had 2 surefire pass interference calls that would have resulted in Oregon touchdowns. One that actually kind of made me laugh out loud because old boy actually grabbed the Oregon guy's arm and rode him like a sled dog down the field. That one made me laugh when I saw the replay of that. And we've been talking a lot about the gun celebrations. If Oregon stopped shooting themselves in the foot and shot Ohio State in the foot a little more, I think they definitely would have won that by 10-plus points. But just wanted to get your all's quick thoughts. Just that's what I was seeing while I was watching the game, and good to talk to y'all.
Yeah, no. Well, Tyler, I think you bring up a couple good points. If I believe that first extra, Oregon went for 2, didn't they? They tried to do that trick play, right? Unless I'm losing my mind.
Yeah, at some point they did.
Yeah, they tried.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was the second one.
That was the second one.
The holder just straight up dropped the ball on the first one and ended up running around like a headless chicken for 10 seconds before.
Yeah, so I agree with you. There was some points that Oregon left on the field, but don't forget, Oregon kind of got that I call the surprise onside kick, where you're surprised it was a surprise.
I thought that pass
kick.
interference call on Jeremy Smith was absolutely garbage.
Yeah.
I would just be happy to win by 1 and get that game out of the way.
Without a doubt.
There's a lot of Buckeye fans that think they left a lot of points on the board, too.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt. But it was great talking to you, gentlemen.
Yeah, Tyler, thanks, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Enjoy that. I know that weather's getting freezing up there, but
starting to get cold here, a little chippy out.
Yeah, we felt that fall weather this morning.
I love it.
I do too. It's a great time of year.
I'm all about it.
All right, we got a Monday night football game tonight, boys.
Yes.
All right.
What do you take?
A big shout out Jaden Daniels and that receiver
Terry McLaurin.
God, I can never remember his name.
Here's what I got tonight. Give me Breece Hall anytime touchdown. I think it could be through the air or on the ground, or hell, by mail if you have to. Breece Hall is that good. Then I'm going to take the under in this game. I bought it up to 43.5 because I feel like it's going to end at 42. I could get that for minus 144. Guys, I really, 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 really like the Bills tonight.
I do too. I'm going to take the Bills money line minus 122, and then I'm going to take their TTP over 20.5 at minus 115.
All right, fellas, I love it. Bring up my bets. I'm giving Breece Hall over 26.5 receiving yards. The Bills defense love to run cover 2. All right, they're going to keep everything in front of them, and Aaron Rodgers will check down all day. I'm going Aaron Rodgers over 1.5 passing touchdowns.
Nice.
It's going off at plus 150.
You got a first touchdown score you like?
Oh, yeah, it's Breece Hall.
Okay.
Breece
All
Hall?
right, let's see what Ace got. He's going baseball. He's going to go Dodgers money line minus 142 and the Indians money line plus 140. We got some
first game of the series against the Yankees.
That's exactly right. You love to see it.
The Yankees are in a bad place right now. After what they did to me, they got the guys who keep doing bring the boom.
Oh, yeah, now you lose.
And
you deserve it.
Yeah.
Dodgers
I feel like those
smacked the
people
Mets
should be
around,
investigated.
Yeah.
I feel like that dad's up to something.
I hated to see that.
All right, if you donated today, guys, thank you so much. We really appreciate it on this side. We're going to start with a $5 donation from Matthew M. What's up? He says, where is that UGA D line? They are in the 80s in sack rate. Mikael Williams better show up. Hashtag hook 'em.
Look, we got to give Rusty Manziel a lot of credit for coming on here before the season and being like, guys, look, the Georgia defensive line, they're going to be good, but this is probably the worst defensive line that Georgia's had in the last 3 to 4 years because there's not that dominant guy. There's not that Jalen Carter. There's not that Jordan Davis. There's some good players, but he came on here and told us, and he literally said this Georgia defense is going to be down compared to what it's been.
$10 donation from S. Bentley. What's up? He says, you're right, Jake. I was getting irritated with the play calling for UGA and thought they were passing too much. That, to me, is one of the reasons Mississippi State came back. The defense also needs to get it together.
It's just they're like me and Cohen were talking about. I think they're going to put their best foot forward this weekend, though. I think you're going to see Georgia really, really respond to the bad start against Bama and come out and put something good together.
$10 donations from the B. Says, Blaine is mid at NCAA football, the video game. You're correct. And David is the GOAT. I agree. I'm going to the Illinois versus Michigan game this Saturday.
Oh, man.
I need your team not to lose, David.
Yeah,
we're going to preview that
on
one.
the road, man. That's going to be a good one. That's a top 25 matchup.
Without a doubt, Illinois is pretty damn good.
$10 donation from the Bama boy. Says, someone fire Kalen DeBoer. I'm sick of watching this wash-ass defense come out and play every Saturday. Tennessee money line to the moon.
Hey, David, do you think, and you know, I hate to bring this up because he's a buddy of mine. He's a really good dude, and Kane Womack. But if Tennessee puts a number on him, like, do you think there's a chance that Kalen DeBoer's forced to make a decision at
mid-season?
the position? Not mid-season.
End of the year, maybe. I don't know. What do you think?
Man, first years are so weird. But, like, this circumstance is so different because you took over for Nick Saban. Like, the standard and the expectation, not that it's always been high at Bama, but, like, this is hey, something was wrong with us year one. Show us you know something's wrong. Fire somebody. It's like when the king used to be like, oh, well, what's wrong? Why are the villagers pissed off? Oh, well, we don't have enough meat. Where's the head of who's in charge of the meat? Oh, Lord Stanley? Yeah, chop his head off in the head square, and everybody feels better about it because at least you're doing something.
All right, $5 donation from Obama, Bama. Damn it, always mess that up. I want to see the W over Tennessee, but I need to see the right attitude for Bama if I'm going to be able to breathe.
Yeah.
Georgia and Texas should both lose their game, in my opinion. I love it. $5 donation from Quattro. Says, every time I tell you about JMU, I'm always proven right. Shaking my head. What has happened for y'all to be JMU truthers? They have Georgia Southern next week.
Where's that one?
Dude, how
about Georgia Southern coming back on Marshall, boys? Did y'all see that? They were
every time I see them, I think about you. Everywhere I go, I see his face. Yeah, when it comes to JMU, I mean, you know, that game against Coastal, I think we called that.
They're going to Paulson Stadium.
Yeah, it's just they took that L to Bryant Vincent. I mean, this is tough life out here in these.
Yeah, ULM absolute wagon. They're on a bye week this week. $5 donation from Skull88. He says, an LSU fan, I'm glad we won. I'm even more happy the defense stepped up in the big time. That's a huge confidence builder going forward to this weekend.
That was another thing. LSU on defense, that was the thing that worried us the most, tackling in space. And I thought they played about as well as they could with who they have on defense, including making some big stops when they had to have it, not just, you know, forcing punts, but holding Ole Miss to that last field goal instead of giving up a touchdown, which kept it a 7-point lead instead of a 11-point lead, which keeps you in the game.
All right, let's go to Miserable Trojan with a $2 donation. He says, USC sucks. I'm in Nashville for a day. Any suggestions?
God, a day?
Go hang out at Blaine's apartment.
Yeah, Blaine will have you at his apartment. He leaves the door unlocked, so he's just waiting for somebody to come in there.
Please. I need it. That's a really, God, Auburn almost lost to the bye week last week. I definitely need it now. $10 donation from Mr. S. What's up, dude? He said, made it home safely. Blaine, come be our coach. I know you won't tolerate BS. Was Liam Cohen the best hire of the NFL offseason?
One of them. Oh, boy, was damn good at Kentucky, too. Got Will Levis drafted.
Replaced Canales, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
$2 donation from Timmy. What's up, man? Lane Kiffin's the most fake and overrated coach to ever live.
I don't know. Butch Jones.
Guys, don't worry about it. He's going to do a TikTok with his daughter. Everything's going to be fine. $5 donation to WTH. What's up, man? A&M fan here. I disagree with those who want Georgia to win. I want A&M to be the team to personally welcome Texas to the SEC with a fist to the face.
That's what I'm saying. You have the hate. Then you got that diabolical. I was bullied for 11 years.
Yeah, I'm going to catch you in 20.
And now I'm good with computers. And I just sent a virus to the company where you worked for it right before your biggest sale. Like, sometimes it's not just when the hate happens, or it's not just when the hate happened, it's when the hate happens.
It's like when Iran gets so close to having a nuke.
Like right when they get it?
Right when they get it, someone clicks that button.
Yeah, they just hit the reset button.
$5 donation from Dev. What's up, Dev? Hey, fellas, riding high with this BYU team. They have a pretty favorable remaining schedule, but if you had to pick a loss, where is it? Love y'all. Devin, love you. Let me pull up BYU's schedule.
Hurry up.
It's all over it today. All right, you got Oak State this weekend. Then you're going to fight the Gus Malzahn's at UCF.
Yeah.
Then you're at Utah, Kansas at home. Then you go play Scatterboo and the boys at Arizona State. And you finish the year with Houston.
I mean, it's the toughest game now that Rising isn't playing. Arizona State. What's happening?
You know, and maybe Utah, now that they know Cam Rising's not playing, maybe that'll just change the way they approach game plans with Isaac Wilson back there. I don't know.
All right, let's go to a $2 donation from our one and only Cuse. What's up, Cuse? He says, Vandy, Texas, 10-26. Bring college game day to Nashville. We'll see.
The books versus the hooks.
$5 last donation of the day. If you donated, guys, thank you so much. $5 donation from Max Alona G. He says, Ohio State got the Oregon Stadium experience, baby. Deafening loud, ears bleeding. Pate called it the best venue in the Big Ten. When do you guys come visit?
We'd love to. We don't have the resources that Pate does to do it every weekend, but we would love to. As far as the Oregon-Ohio State game, I just, after picking Oregon to beat Washington twice last year and them letting me down, I'm just personally want to thank Dan Lanning for coming through this one because I thought they were letting me down. I had firmly made up in my mind that Ohio State was going to go down and kick a field goal. And the people that are saying, did they run the 12th man on purpose to get the 5-yard penalty but eat 4 seconds of the clock? I just don't believe that. There's no way. Have you seen that?
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday.
Oh, that's right.
Smart. If you really
That's
think
not,
about it.
he didn't do that on purpose. There's no way. Because 5 yards, I'm shocked they were going to try and kick a field goal.
I want to know where that kicker's good from. That's what I really want to know.
Yeah, that's because that's just a totally different type.
All right, poll.
Let's get to the poll.
Which game will be better this weekend? Alabama, Tennessee, or Texas, Georgia?
Oh. David, what do you think?
Which one will be, you said better or closer?
Better.
I'll say Georgia, Texas, I don't know, 65%. 66%.
I'm going to say Bama, Tennessee, 54%.
Okay.
Texas, Georgia, 73%.
Wow.
Alabama, Tennessee, 27%.
That means bet your money on the Bama-Tennessee game to probably be better. We'll see. We appreciate you guys. Shout out to Bet Online, Responsible Man. Go check those out. BetOnline.ag. Use that promo code BOOSTER, then ResponsibleMan.com with promo code. You guessed it, Booster. Got a great show for you tomorrow. We got a lot more games to get into, and we're still going to be talking about these. And just like the chances of me not being able to watch football tonight, ha 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 ha! It's like day 9 in a row. We're going. Gone. You have to move my hand.